own the land. Well, technically they do, but we don't want to get rid of you. We can't get rid of you. What we can do is procreate together, and maybe the blood dilutes a little bit. But that's been going on for how many years? How many Washingtons do you know? I don't understand how in 2017 these conversations and this ignorance and these protests about ignorance are so prevalent. And so we will not be removed. You cannot replace us. We're never going away. We know. And we're not trying to replace you. We don't want to remove you, but it's offensive to people of all colors when we sit here and glorify a racist, a blatant racist, on a college campus. I think, there's a time and a place. If you want, go ahead and buy the statue, put it in your house, and have rallies all you want with your friends. Where's my ICNs? Haitian, Haiti, stand up. Where's the Zoes at? Your president, my president, our president. I don't care if you want to claim him or not. The truth of the matter is Donald Trump is criminalizing Haitian refugees. We all know what happened back with the earthquake. A lot of people came to America. A lot of people came to the States. And it didn't take long for Haitians to find out how Donald Trump really feels about them. While campaigning last fall in Miami, of course, aka Little Haiti, the Haitian American community adds so much to our country. Dedication to family, perseverance, entrepreneurship. The kids are Haitian, and I can't tell you how much of myself has been developed through their grandmother, who is my mother. Like, I love mommy. And her hard work, her perseverance, her entrepreneurship, her dedication to family. Watching her work and bust her behind 2-3 jobs to bring family, her niece or her cousin or her goddaughter. I'm like, mommy, how many godchildren do you have? But will do everything in her power to make sure that they live a better life, whether it's sending them things, remittance, whether it's sending them money, whether it's bringing them to America. Haiti has suffered over and over and over again for simply doing what Ethiopia did, and that's kicking out those trying to beat them out. They lack foreign aid as far as United States is concerned because they went ahead and put their best foot forward and said, not today, Satan, not today. And they continue to lack today for the same reasons. About 58,000 Haitian beneficiaries of an emergency immigration program will see their status expire in July unless the new administration approves an extension. As Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly weighs in his decision, internal communications reported by Associated Press last week revealed that a malicious and unprecedented effort by the federal government that seems designed to find those that are part of this program, cancel the program, and expedite Haitians back to Haiti. There are many now Haitian Americans that have been here for years that say that there's nothing to go back to. After the earthquake, their houses were destroyed, their businesses were destroyed. The Clintons went in there and built all of 6 houses with how many millions of dollars? There's nothing there for me. How do you let me come to this country, part of a program, and then all of a sudden take that away and tell me to go home? That wasn't part of the plan. I wasn't told that. Did I sign that contract? But when you are at the will of the state, what option do you have? When you're doing bad, I point it out and I make a mockery of whatever it is that you do. But one of the things I have to do is give a shout out to Mayor Marty Walsh, because he stood up and said, Boston is the third largest city of Haitian Americans, and we need to work together to protect our brothers and sisters. Thank you, Mayor Marty Walsh. Thank you for acknowledging those that are here, that are helping this city run, that are helping this city build. I want to quickly say a prayer to all those that are in mental limbo, not knowing whether or not they're going to be able to stay, not knowing whether or not they're going to be kicked out the country. I could not imagine the anguish they feel knowing that this program is up in July and they could possibly be sent back to a country that has nothing for them. I couldn't imagine. I could not imagine. In other news, hold on a moment, because the internet not working. Confronting segregation in New York City schools, despite the diversity that we all believe is in New York City, New York has some of the most deeply segregated school systems in the nation. When asked about this last week, Mayor Bill de Blasio dodged the question by saying that the schools are a reflection of historical housing patterns. And I don't feel as if, so reports say that he dodged the question, but the truth of the matter is that is fact. That is truth. That's not dodging the questions. That's the bold face. There was no other answer to give. But to say that schools are a reflection of historical housing patterns. You want a real estate tip Tuesday? I want you to go back and look at the history of real estate. Look at the history of redlining. Look at the history when those boys came back from war and some got housing just because they came back from war while others had to go and fend for themselves. I think you know who those others are, and those that have been able to create generational wealth. I want you to do your due diligence. We cannot change the basic reality of housing in New York City, said Mayor Bill de Blasio. But what can be done? What can be done in the city of Boston, where segregation is as real as New York City? When Dominicans live on one side and the Puerto Ricans live on another, when there's a little Cape Verde, and we all know where the Haitians live at. We are not far removed from the stories that we read. Ever. We are never far removed from the stories that we read. I was having a conversation with someone that I respect yesterday, and he made mention to what's going on with the schools, what's going on with Betsy. And the truth of the matter is, if you can't beat them, join them. And we can't beat the system, baby. We're not Haiti. We're not Ethiopia. We are not one unit. We do not work together. We do not work on one accord. We do not speak the same language as the Bible says. We are not building Babel. Like, we as a whole, and I say we the people, if you are 99%, if you are not a millionaire, if you are not a billionaire, I don't care what race, religion, color, creed you are part of the 99%. You are that little person being stepped on. I don't care if you make $180,000 a year, that's still not enough for you to actually make decisions in this world. I'm sorry, are you a Rothschild? No, you're not. You're part of the 99%. We talk about taking back our schools. That seems damn near impossible. We've talked about taking back our police force. That seems like it's damn near impossible. We've talked about everything under the sun, but instead of talking about it, can we start opening our own schools? Can we start governing our own neighborhoods? I always wondered what that would look like. Because we got dudes in these streets, like, for real. Take a second, walk with me on this. We have dudes in these streets that claim to be G's, that claim to be gangsters, that claim to do all these things, right? So why aren't you protecting the elderly and the children that are in your neighborhood? Even though this is your block, yet your mother doesn't even own the house that you live in, why don't we protect that block? Govern ourselves, making sure the children are okay, having them 6-year-olds walking to the bus stop by themselves. Why don't we open our own school? So that way we don't have to sit here and beg teachers to teach our children what they should rightfully know. Or maybe we should open our own schools so little black girls don't get detention and suspension for having braids. If you didn't know, let me tell you really quickly. Black students at Massachusetts charter school served detention and faced suspension from sports teams for wearing their hair in braids. I want to say publicly that this is not the first time that a little black girl or a black woman has been chastised for having her hair in a protective style, nor even black men that were forced to cut off their locks or cut off any form of their hair because it was unprofessional. How is my natural state of hair unprofessional? I'm sorry. I've had friends that had to cut off their locks because it was unprofessional, because the job that they want, baby, there is no way in the world that I'm finna change me for you. Period. Massachusetts charter school went ahead and suspended these 2 girls from sports, gave them detention. This is not the first time that this has happened in America. It's not even the first time that it happened in Massachusetts. But these little black girls have white parents. That's why I feel like it's in the news. That's why, because how many times did we get the tail end? There's a lawsuit ensued because this ain't a lawsuit. This is front page center. Mystic Valley Regional Charter School right outside of Boston. I called them yesterday as soon as I heard the story. No one has gotten back to me yet, but they, according to reports, stand by their policy of not having extensions, not having unnatural hair colors. The crazy thing about it is, I have white friends, even have white family members. When they get extensions, you can't tell because there's like these little clips that they put in the hair. You remember like My Little Pony and how My Little Pony had them little clips that you put in her mane? That's like the same concept of how white girls wear extensions. I was completely oblivious until my cousin hit me. She was like, Tayla, I got extensions. My hair's mad thin. I got my father's hair. I don't have my mother's thick, coarse hair. I got my father's hair, and it's thin as hell, and it looks like it's falling out, but it's not. This is just my hair, so I get clips. I'm like, what is a clip? She was like, remember My Little Pony? I was like, all right, show me this. And it's this little teeny, tiny piece of thing, and there's like 70 different clips in her head, and it makes her hair longer, fuller, but you'll never know. You would think it was her natural hair. So when Becky has extensions and they're little clips that you can't tell, is anybody putting their hair in Becky's hair to, confirm that she has extensions? These 2 little black girls, Maya and Deanna Cook, sophomore at Mystic Valley Regional Charter, right outside of Boston, were issued detention and told they couldn't participate in their school sports teams after they returned from spring break with professionally braided hair that their father, Aaron Cook, completely approved of. Again, their parents are white, and they feel like their children are being discriminated against and unfairly treated because they're black. And the school's like, listen, this has nothing to do with race. There's absolutely nothing to do with anything. Like, the girls can't wear extensions, period. It's in the handbook. You should have read the handbook, and because you didn't, they're going to go sit in detention. Like, how do you explain to a child, sophomore or second grade, that they have to sit in detention, which is, like, that's for an offense. What did you do? You did something wrong. You, like, pointing a finger. How dare you? How could you? And it's like, are you serious? Big City 101.3 FM, Waking Up with TaylaAndre, 617-282-0062. I want to hear your stories as far as work is concerned, as far as school is concerned. What personal stories do you have as far as extensions or locks or your afro or your curly hair, or maybe you're a Latino and most of your family get their hair bone straight, blow dried, which is something I will never understand. Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, can you please explain to me this? And I ask my Puerto Rican, Dominican beautician all the time. All the time. Like, your hair is gorgeous. You have curly, natural, beautiful hair. I saw it when you washed it the other day. Why is your hair always bone straight? Always. Why don't you ever embrace your curls? I've heard on several occasions that it's easier to manage. I've heard on several occasions that it looks nice. It looks pretty. I personally have dealt with the fact that, so for those who don't know, my mother's Cape Verdean, my father's black. My parents linked up when they were back in, like, damn near middle school. Okay, I'm lying. My mother was 17. My father was 20 when I was born. And then my mother went about her life and got married. She married a Louisiana, Creole, French, Canadian, Native American. He's a white man. And my sisters and brothers are clear. You can see their veins. I love them to death, but they think they're black. Like, they are fully, you let them tell it, they are Cape Verdean and white. But Cape Verdean. And my nieces and nephews have blonde hair, blue eyes. So when Asaria was younger and she had this big afro of curly locks, she used to say, Mommy, I want my hair pretty like Maddie's. And my niece Madison has blonde hair, blue eyes, and she has a lot, like, these big, beautiful, golden curls. She's like Goldilocks. Like, they're gorgeous. And it grows so fast. Asaria and I are still trying to get her past shoulder length right now. Madison went ahead and cut her hair for cancer, and it's already grown back to the length it was prior to her cut. But when Asaria was 5 and 6 and 7, she used to always say, Mommy, I want my hair pretty like Maddie. And if I say, Asaria, let's go to the Dominicans, she's ready, set, go to get her hair flat ironed. I personally, this is my personal struggle of having my daughter embrace her hair, to love her hair, and not compare it with others. 617-282-0062. We have 2 black girls out of Mystic Valley Charter School, that regional charter school, that were recently placed in detention for coming back from spring break with braids, and could not participate in sports because of their braids. What stories do you have to share as far as not being able to participate, being kicked out, not being able to work, having to cut your locks? Is this fair? And I don't know if you guys remember, but it was a federal decision that locks are not, like, dreadlocks are not something, and they're not dreadlocks. They're locks. Once upon a time, people were like, oh, what are those ugly things on their head? They're dreadful. That's where dreadlocks came from. Be mindful next time you say dreadlocks. Know where it came from next time you say dreadlocks. Those things are dreadful. Those dreadful locks. Those dreadlocks. And we embrace it. Like, look at my dreadlocks. No. No. Stop going with the flow. Etymology. Shout out to Sabir Bay. Everything has a meaning. All the words that you speak. You guys remember spells? Taking spelling tests? Quote unquote witches make spells. No, you make spells every day when you open your mouth and put words together. Every day. Unorthodox conversations. I bet you weren't expecting that one. Yes. You are just like a witch. You make spells. Did you know that? Did you even consider that? What have you experienced as far as your hair in the workplace? What have your child experienced as far as hair in the school system? What stories have you heard when it comes to hair? We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to pull up the federal decision that was made on a federal level when it comes to locks and when it comes to employers being fair or unfair. And I'm wondering what attorney and who is going to be the attorney to help reverse this decision, because I never thought it was acceptable for the federal government to determine what's natural about someone's hair. 617-282-0062. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Big City 101.3 FM. Waking up with TaylaAndre. Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7. You guys, the question is open to you as well. YouTube, Facebook. You can inbox me or you can go ahead and comment right where you are. Oh, we got a bunch of comments. I'm sorry I didn't read y'all. What you over here saying, YouTube? Y'all commented anything? You guys are feel free to comment on something as well. And I'm so glad they need to be redone and taken out. But I'm so glad I got my braids on this historical day. I can't believe them little two black girls had to serve in detention. Anari wouldn't have been in detention. Asaria wouldn't have been in detention. I would have picked their ass up from school real quick. It would have been OV. They ain't coming back to school. We homeschooling. That's ignorant. It's so fucking ignorant. We're not on air. For those wondering why I'm cussing, I got a sailor's mouth. What is it? Federal decision locks. Here it is. What date was it? So we're going to go back up. I'm going to read some of these comments that are here on Facebook. YouTube, make sure you guys chime in. Don't ever feel like I'm going to leave you guys out. If you have something to say, say it. I'm listening, and so is the whole world. You can type it up if you want to. We have another 45 seconds before we go into it. I just added another 15 seconds, so we have a minute. Long time no see. Good rising, good rising. Hey, Corey, how are you? Lloyd, Ronald, Bud, what's going on? Risa, how are you? V from Tennessee. Bud Bowden, I want to not only visit, but build with brothers and sisters in the motherland. Passport time. Yes, the Illuminati is taking over, Tayla. Baby, they been taking over. Hey, Lady Braxton, good rising, good rising. Ronald, close them blinds. I got you. How's that, Granddaddy? How's that? The sun is glaring. Hate to say it. Yes, the sun, man, the sun. Dump Trump. Put the camera back. How's that? I don't know. Oh, yes, we did get a call, and I think I missed it. 617-282-0062. There you are. There you are. Give us a call, baby. 617-282-0062. What and when have you experienced someone being discriminatory towards your hair? We have two black girls out of the Mystic Valley charter school here right outside of Boston that were recently placed in detention and suspended from sports because they have braids. Because they have braids. So really quickly, I want to read this federal decision that was ridiculously passed. The federal court ruled that companies can fire people just for having dreadlocks. Again, they are not dreadlocks, they are locks. They are not dreadful, they are just locks. In a decision that delimits the concept of race to physical characteristics that are immutable, a federal appeals court ruled that firing an employee for wearing her or his hair in locks is not racial discrimination. This is federal. This is a federal decision. And in this federal decision, they determined what is acceptable for black people to wear on their head because it's not immutable. If I let my hair grow, I do not brush it, in 3 days, I will have locks. 3 days. That's all it will take for TaylaAndre, and I don't even have coarse hair. It's just my curls get tangled up. I've had a dreadlock before. I've had to cut it out. I called it a dreadlock because it was dreadful. It was one piece of hair that was clumped up together. Now, when I go through my midlife crisis and I have locks, that's going to be completely different. They're going to be cute. They're going to be small. And hopefully they're going to go all the way down to my feet. But that's not what it is right now. According to the decision in a 3-0 decision, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals dismissed a case brought by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission against a company that refused to hire a woman because she refused to cut off her locks. According to the Wall Street Journal, Chastity Jones applied to work at Catastrophe Management Solutions in 2010 and was initially hired, but the role came with one condition. Jones was told that she'd have to cut off her locks in order to comply with the company's grooming policy. She refused, and the job offer was rescinded. It was taken away from her. No, you cannot work here because you did not comply with us telling you you have to look like us, cut off your locks, and stop looking dreadful. The EEOC alleged in its case that banning dreadlocks was racial discrimination. Prohibiting dreadlocks in the workplace constitutes race discrimination because locks are a manner of wearing the hair and a physiological, culturally associated with people of African descent. The EEOC said that the argument was based on an understanding of race as a social construct that has no biological definition. According to the 11th Circuit, during an oral argument, the EEOC asserted that if a white person chose to wear their hair in locks as a sign of racial support for her black colleagues, the employer applied its lock ban to that person as well, and that person could then use the assertion of race-based disparity in treatment. And you can't use race-based disparity of treatment because you're white. So they were saying since it's unacceptable for a white person to do it, then you can't make it acceptable for a black person to do it. Which sounds completely asinine. Because I don't know. I could be wrong, but the last time I checked, white people, it's very difficult for them to lock up their hair. Please, 617-282-0062. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the couple of locks that I've seen on white people look kind of dreadful. I'm just this is my personal opinion. The thoughts, opinions, feelings, and words of TaylaAndre reflect nobody else but my damn self. And some of the locks that I've seen on non-melanated creatures look a little dreadful. Just a little bit. I've only seen like two hippies at the 420 concert. Like I've never really seen unmelanated creature with locks. And I could be wrong, but I don't think their hair just naturally locks. Again, I could be wrong. We do have a call on the line, 617-282-0062. How do you feel about these little girls do you think detention was necessary? Do you think that they should have went to detention for having their braids? Do you think they should have been suspended from sports for having their braids? Do you agree that, the school says that they can't have extensions, so they can't have extensions, period. Take a kid out of the school and send them somewhere else. Do you think it's acceptable and appropriate for a school or for a workplace to tell a person how to wear their hair? Whether or not they should have a beard. Because as far as I'm concerned, No Shave November had men out here all types of ungroomed. Were men fired for having a No Shave November beard? Like black women have been fired for wearing afros, for not having their hair straight, for having locks, for not being compliant to what society says is beautiful? Good rising, caller, you're live.
Good rising, Tayla.
What's going on, Ty? Quite a long time no hear.
No, you've been away for a while, haven't you? Oh, welcome back. Look, when white people wear dreadlocks, they look like mangy dogs. You're right. you got to go on that one. But if the school's policy of natural hair, not wearing a hairstyle that's unnatural, well, what's more unnatural than a little black girl having her hair straightened and dressed and stuff? If you came to school like that, would you give her detention for wearing a style that's unnatural? So whoever the lawyer is that's going to take on that case, they better understand what is natural for black people and what is not natural. But, it just really now is re-emphasizing again the fact that in this society, we like subjects under the slave master's children. They're still determining for us what our grooming standards is and what's supposed to be natural and unnatural for us. They need to just divide up this country with us and let us do our own. They can do what they want to do and we'll do us.
Hold on. Okay, two things. So language is very important, and I am aware that when it comes to law and legal matters, language is the foundation of whether you're guilty or whether you're innocent. And the language is, the policy says no extension. So it doesn't say you can't wear your hair naturally. The language for the two little girls at Mystic Valley Charter, it says that they cannot wear extensions. They came back with braids, which is a form of extensions. And the other part is that once upon a time, our country was segregated, and we were the ones that wanted to integrate. So with that being said, we made the wrong decision.
We sure did.
Love you, Tagua. Appreciate you. Some people say maybe we did make the wrong decision. We were segregated. We wanted to be one together. Because that's just how we are. We're love. We're not malicious. We're not angry. We're not violent. We just want to love on people and invite people into our space and go into other people's space and just... I don't know, my love. I don't know. We got work to do. We have a caller on the line. I think this is a very special guest. I'm excited for this. Good rising, caller. You're live.
Hello, this is Steve Perry.
Hey, Mr. Perry. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. How you doing?
I am super fantastic. I am so excited to hear your voice. We were just talking about the two little girls out here in Boston, right outside of Boston, that were recently placed in detention and suspended from sports because of their extensions. They came back from spring vacation with braids, and the school said, not here, not today. Y'all could be suspended, suspended from sports and go sit in detention.
What was the reason?
Because
It sounds specious.
Because they had braids.
Is there a policy against braids?
There is a policy against extensions, and their braids had weave, so it was extensions.
Wow. I never heard anything like that before.
Well, we were also reading the decision from the 11th federal court that stated that an employer can fire an employee with locks because it is not an immutable, that's not naturally how their hair grows, and so locks are not natural, and they can and will be fired, and it's not discriminatory.
Sounds absurd. Doesn't seem to me to be a good use of. If it's not an issue of safety, right? If there's a hair length, for instance, a firefighter or a police officer, something that's believed to be an issue of safety, any type of hair that's too long would seem to be something that could be legislated. But if it's a style issue, I don't know why somebody would want to work for somebody who was so concerned about their hair anyway.
Understandable, but when the federal court says that, listen, you can be fired and you cannot sue because, we made the decision 3-0 that it is what it is. You cannot wear your hair in locks, and if you plan to, your employer can and will fire you, and you won't be able to take it to court because we, the court of the 11th district, say that it's not discriminatory.
Yeah, I think the bigger issue for me is one with the children who are being removed from sports. I've never heard of that. Children play with long hair, whether theirs or they're not. I mean, so if a child were to have alopecia and were to wear a wig, that could be seen as an extension of what is not their quote-unquote natural hair. And so that they couldn't play basketball if they wore a wig. It just seems absurd.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for those who don't know, we have one of the most sought-out speakers, sought-out educators. Dr. Steve Perry is one of the most sought-out educators in America, widely respected by grassroots community members and internationally renowned leaders. He's amazing. From Oprah Winfrey to P. Diddy to Bishop T.D. Jakes, Steve Harvey, all of them call on him to offer insight to parents and children. I love him because he's amazing. You guys know I'm a huge C-Plan supporter, the Collaborative Parent Action Leader Network, and what we do is fight for a voice. We fight for a seat at the table, and Dr. Perry has been fighting for a seat at the table when it comes to parents and children, and not just being heard by educators, but being heard by politicians, being heard by those that make decisions when it comes to our children's education inside of the walls of the school as well as out. Dr. Perry, I want to say thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate you. What's going on in your circle right now? Like, what are you doing in your world? How are you?
Well, I'm fantastic, and thank you so much for asking. I'm very, very humble and honored to have the opportunity to work with children. That's what I really do. The fact that I've been seen on television or heard on radio doesn't change what I really do. I'm in a side office right now in Harlem at our school here in Harlem, getting ready to have a meeting with a family whose child has experienced something that we don't ever want anybody to experience. It's been bullied. And so my real life is what I really do. It's being a part of the conversation, but it's also a rage against the system. Our schools are a direct political statement that there's nothing wrong with black kids, and that our our community produces children as beautiful and powerful as any other. That black and brown children can learn no matter where they are. The zip code is simply a man-made designation. It doesn't determine what they have inside their hearts and minds. So where I am is on the front line here in Harlem, a block away from Central Park and a block away from some of the roughest housing projects the city has seen. And in between there is a school where we're telling our children when they graduate, they will go on to a 4-year college, period.
Dr. Perry, when it comes to children and when it comes to education, what is one of the things that we are doing wrong as parents? What is one of the things that we are missing as far as our children's education is concerned? When we look at graduation rates and we look at college readiness and we look at the disparities between inner cities and suburbs, because, parents are always the ones to blame. So what are we actually doing wrong?
There's the personal and there's the political. On the personal side, as parents in our own homes, we have to start reading to our children as soon as we know we're having children. The practice of reading to children and reading with children cannot be overstated for its importance to child's development. It's not just learning how to hear the words. It's also the closeness, the bond that's built for holding a child close to your chest, male or female, and spending that very intimate time with them. So that's very important. To also do the same thing with math. We, especially Black and Latino people and poor people in general, we hold it up so often as a badge of honor. I'm bad at math. Like, that's okay. You can't start a child off by telling them they're bad at something that, quite frankly, our community created. And then there's the political. Politically speaking, we are not involved and educated enough to understand the inner workings of what we refer to as public education is. Public education is not determined by the building where children are really supposed to be educated. It's the people who are supposed to be educated. It's not the employees that determine whether or not it's a public school. It's the children, meaning who it serves. So specifically what that means, I don't care if it's a traditional school, meaning a neighborhood school, a charter school, or a private school. The public's children are there, and we need to fight for school choice. We cannot allow where our children live to determine where they will die. And that means that children must be allowed to go to the best schools for them. If you have children, you have multiple children, you understand that in many cases, your children are different. And just because they were born in the same house, from the same womb, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are the same people. So we need to create academic circumstances that will allow children to select. There's a new economy of education, which means we now see education as something that can be traded, something that you can buy, or something that you can advocate for. And the day is gone where you just go to the schools closer to your house. Parents don't even expect to do that anymore. Now they're looking for a way out, and we need to make sure there are politically more options. We can't allow people who call themselves our allies, most specifically many of the white liberal Democrats, who would have us believe that they have our back, but they don't. They send their kids to largely white, wealthy suburban school systems, and then say that they want to support public schools. When our public schools and their public schools are not the same. When our schools look like their schools, then we'll support them just the same as they do. And then back to the parents. Parents, in many cases, I understand, that our school systems have failed us and continue to fail us. On the same token, you can't come to the school ready to fight all the time. You got to recognize that there is a better way to communicate. And contentious doesn't get us anywhere but into a fight. I had a parent yesterday, she's pounding on the table saying, I'm a parent, okay? Well, we're going to throw our titles on the head of schools like that. So now what? But if you want to have a conversation about your daughter and the fight she got in yesterday, we can have that conversation too. But we're not going to have that conversation with people being disrespectful of one another. I get that parents oftentimes when they come to the school, they come in and they are on 10. If you can imagine a school very often exists almost like an emergency room where everything, when a parent comes in, is of the highest importance. But there has to be another way that we communicate that. So parents should also educate ourselves rights are and what the expectations are. Very often I see parents whose children, especially boys, moms with boys, who see their son has an IEP, and they misunderstand what an IEP is. And they seem to think that an IEP, getting your child identified as having special needs, is going to guarantee that he gets A's. And that's not the way this thing goes down. Just because it says that your child has more time to take a test, it doesn't mean that test is going to go well if you don't study with him. The same is true just because it says that he has service hours, meaning he's going to meet with a special education teacher or a social worker or a speech and language pathologist. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to yield the results that you want. It requires work still. It's like hiring a trainer when you want to lose weight. Just because you hire a trainer doesn't mean you're going to lose weight. You have to put the work in as well.
So we have a lot of work to do, Dr. Perry. We have a lot of work to do. What is, for the parents that maybe didn't start at birth, because you said reading needs to start at birth, like, for those that didn't start at birth, for those that felt as if, I'm horrible at math, so I don't know how to lead my child or teach my child how to be good in something that I'm horrible at. For those parents that have a third or a fourth grader or a fifth grader and they feel as if they already failed their child, what steps can they take to redeem themselves or to redeem that lost time?
Yeah, I would frame it, I hear what you're saying, I'll frame it a little differently. We all learn as we go, so none of us are perfect at this. We're all working to get better, including me. Right? If you put a camera on me in my house, you'd hear me say certain words, you think, wow, Dr. Perry, it is kind of rough. But it is because, in parent mode, we're unvarnished, and we say things to our kids and about our kids that are not always as pretty and would play well in reality TV. So I say to parents, first, give yourself a break, meaning acknowledge that we're all still learning, and don't beat yourself up over this. The second part is every single thing that can be learned is available online. So that device that you use, that is you use to find out where you're going to get your hair done, or where you're going to go out to eat, or how much a vanity is going to cost for your bathroom that you spend 2 hours doing or 3 hours doing or a weekend doing, whatever it is. Use that same device to teach your child to read, write, and compute. Go to Khan Academy, Khan Academy, and find out how you might be able to support your child by giving them practice steps. Talk to your school and ask them what it is that you can specifically do. Many of them are using online platforms that will allow you to communicate with your children. And that's cool. That's very, very important. Because there's no excuse at this point in America to say, I don't know how to do it. You just don't want to. It doesn't mean you couldn't find someone who knows how to. So, for instance, even I, who run a couple of schools now, my sons will come up and they'll say that they're struggling with a particular topic. Well, if it's in math, we'll go on Khan Academy. And I'll sit there and I'll learn it right next to them. And we'll go through it together. And that's not every night. I don't want to give people the impression that I'm able to execute this every night, but that's my point, though. My point is that we all fall short because we all have additional responsibilities. As long as education is our primary responsibility, then it'll get better. It will get better. And then the other piece is hold your kids accountable, man. Stop coming to the school and making excuses. Well, that's your side of the story. Now let me talk to my son. Are you really serious right now? You see, like your son's side of the story. And it happens again even in my own home. My sons go to our schools, one of our schools, and there are times when my youngest son will get in trouble, and my wife will say, "Well, I want to hear the teacher's side." The teacher doesn't have a side. The teacher is right, and he is wrong. Well, this teacher and he don't get along. Okay, well, it's his job to find a way to make that happen. Just in the same way we do with our boss. Your boss and you don't get along. That is your problem. You're going to find a way to make that happen or find a new boss.
So let's play devil's advocate real quick because I love doing that. So let's say, for instance, we have a charter school that has 2 black teachers. One is the sports director and the other one is the gym teacher. and every other teacher in the school is a Teach for America student that just came out of college themselves. And they are from Minnesota and Idaho. I don't even know what state that is. They're from Idaho, Iowa, and they do not know how to communicate with our kids. They don't even care to communicate with our kids. And there is a teacher that has malice towards a student. Does that student not have a side when they do have a teacher that could care less for them, when they have an entire school that doesn't even reflect what they look like, understand their cultural needs? And the biggest one now is the social emotional learning.
So what I'll say is this: I wish that the distinction was as simple as color or race or gender. There are many people who don't understand where our children are coming from, and some of them are just like us. There are black folks who I've hired who seem to know less about the black community than some of the white people I've hired, and vice versa. White people who we've hired who have not met the needs of our children. Everyone should be able to speak their truth. And I no more want our colleagues who are white to be judged by their color than I want our children who are black to be judged by theirs. I want them all to be judged by their capacity to be effective in the classroom. That being said, when somebody is being negative towards our children, we have every right and should do what we can to correct them. On the same token, too often our children come into school armed with some information, or they send parents some information, and some information is as good as no information. Because when a parent comes in and says, well, this teacher said that my child did and he didn't, too often that's not the true full story. Because I would have spoken to the child in some cases and found out, well, ma'am, that's actually not the case, and if you just give me a second, I'll show you, son. Tell your mother what you told me earlier. Well, I did say something to her, and she, but she had an attitude with me. She had an attitude with you. You mean Miss Johnson had an attitude with you? You mean Miss Johnson was correcting you? You mean Miss Johnson, the person who's in charge, was correcting you, who are an 11-year-old? See, you're framing it wrong, son. You got it all wrong. Miss Johnson is in charge. She doesn't have an attitude when she's correcting you. You guys are not peers. And it's that right there that so often happens. It's a nuanced conversation. It's not either the parent's right or the parent's wrong. Either the teacher's right or the teacher's wrong. It requires a more in-depth conversation. And it starts with asking a question as opposed to questioning. It'd be one thing if I came to you and say, why'd you do that? As opposed to say, what was the reason why you did that? The two are very different. One is questioning and the other one is asking questions. And too often, our parents come in questioning. And just like you on your job, or me on mine, I'm not excited when somebody comes in questioning me. And then the premise of it is, this child said that I did something that is completely egregious. And you would just out of hand believe that. So it requires some level of trust. Other nations find a way to communicate effectively through and with faculty without there being such questioning. We just hired somebody who grew up in South Korea. Or sometimes when we talk to some of our families who grew up in the West Indies or in different parts of Africa, we talk to them about how they treat their schools and their school leaders. And there's no difference between the way they treat their schools and school leaders and the way that many of us treat our pastors. There's such a high level of respect for these individuals, and rightly so. So one should advocate, but advocacy doesn't always have to be adversarial. There's a way to advocate for our children by asking questions and getting to the bottom of what it is and really seeking to understand that it's highly unlikely that anybody in this situation is 100% right or wrong. But there has to be a point at which we train our children to find a way to mind, to listen, because it does happen that way. And I said last week, one of the trickier parts of what we do is the conversation that we're all having around bullying. So I'd say in at least 90% of the cases, there is no bullying. Is the behavior bad? Absolutely. Is it suspendable? Absolutely. Should they stop? Absolutely. But bullying is a sustained or persistent set of actions towards an individual or group by an individual or groups.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you repeat that for me?
Yeah. So bullying is typically a sustained activity towards an individual or group or by an individual or group. So let's say, for instance, I came and I said, you're a dumbhead. Okay, that might not be a kind thing to say or call you a jerk. That might be an unkind or mean thing to say, or you make me sick, or you're fat, or you're skinny, or you're dark, or you're light. All those things are not nice to say. You're, whatever the insults may be, right? They're insults, and they are wrong. And you and I may get into a physical confrontation. That may also be wrong. But those things do not rise to the level of bullying. What makes it bullying, which is a legal term, much like rape is a legal term, sexual assault is a legal term. What makes it bullying is when it's sustained. So it's not just that I said to you, you're a dumbhead. Every day I walk by, you dumbhead. Every day, you're stupid. Every day. Or regularly enough where there's a pattern that develops. It doesn't have to be every day, but over the course of time. And then the level of bullying typically is determined by, let's say, if I were still a principal and not the head of school, I would say, all right, y'all, chill out, stop it, you stop it, enough. What I'm looking for as an administrator is there a power dynamic? So let's say, for instance, that your group of friends didn't like my group of friends, right? But my group of friends were like a bunch of, let's call them, for the sake of this conversation, nerds. And they didn't want to get involved in any, or good kids is a better word. And they didn't want to get involved with a fight with you. And every time you guys saw us, you laughed at us, you picked on us. That's bullying. When I've made it clear, or it's clear, either I've said stop, or, because they don't always have to say stop, or it's clear that the child is not participating. That's very different than what often happens. What often happens is you call me a name, I call you a name, you go home, your mother's better at advocating for you than mine is, and she comes in and says, Steve Perry's bullying my child. But that's not actually true. We were going back and forth, and then I said something that was slicker than you did and hurt your feelings. When we ask questions as opposed to questioning, we get to the bottom of that. And when we recognize that our own children will always make good decisions, it doesn't make them bad children or bad parents. It just means that we need to ask a better question instead of just presuming that because our child came home crying that makes them right and that they were wronged by someone. It doesn't. It's much more nuanced than that. And so that's why I say as parents, coming down to school half cocked, fired up, ready to fight everybody, whether as an attorney, like some parents who, I don't want to give the impression I'm talking about a class of parents, I'm talking about all parents. I've seen parents who are PhDs, MDs, come down to the school and act a straight fool. When I say straight fool, I'm not talking about fighting anybody. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about just being mad, disrespectful, and not considering the fact that your child may not be telling you the complete, unvarnished truth. The statement is, I know my child. Okay, every time someone says, I know my child or my spouse, they end up playing themselves. You don't know anybody that well that you can predict their behavior. You know what you've seen, but you only know what you've been shown. You don't know what this person is capable of. Rare is the occasion that someone sees somebody do something really foul. I knew they would do that, especially somebody they love. We're always surprised when people make bad decisions. And kids do it all day today. What I know for sure is there are going to be kids who come here and they're not going to be in uniform. And here we are with 14 days left on the school year. Why on earth would somebody come to our school out of uniform? It's crazy, right? You know that they have to wear a uniform. Or somebody's going to come in and not have done homework. Or somebody's going to say something slick to one of their classmates. And that's going to be what's going to happen. And they're going to do so in such a way that somebody gets going to have to call home. Last thing I feel like doing today is calling home. I want to make sure that the children are learning. I don't want to stop what I'm doing. I have to call somebody and say, hey, man, I know you're at work. I know you don't have interest in hearing what I have to say, but your son doesn't have his tie on today. Well, I send him to school with a tie. I'm aware of that. But he doesn't have one on now. So can you bring him one?
Wow. So one of the things, I kind of feel we don't have enough time, Dr. Perry, but I do have many questions, and I'm kind of on the fence because I'm with you as far as parents coming in the school gun blazing. I am guilty on all charges, all accounts, because I do believe that on some in some instances, my child does have a point. And Mahogany Centric on Facebook, we're Facebook Live right now, she said his statement about a child not having a side is a reason why our children get mistreated. Is he joking? If not, please tell him to switch jobs. As a parent, you know your child. If I had to go to the school for a meeting, you're right. I want the teacher, I want to know what the teacher did or said to provoke or antagonize the situation. Adults can be at fault too. This is also another reason why our children are not as assertive as they should be. So, because of a title after their name and a piece of paper stating that they passed some classes, does that make their world bond? They cannot be the end all be on. And I want your perspective to be understood.
It's that kind of disrespectful speak that ends up being antagonistic. Who is she to say I need to get another job? See, that's right. That right there is the quintessential example. She doesn't know anything more than we're having a conversation, and she's being mad disrespectful. I would know her to say, you should get a job. See, that's what I'm talking about. And it's that kind of conduct that comes into the school that creates the contentiousness. And therein lies the point. She's not asking a question, she's questioning. And I am saying, after over 20 years of successfully sending children to colleges from historically disadvantaged populations from multiple cities and traveling the country in different parts of the world, that when a child is coming in and telling you some part of the story, they're telling you the part of the story that they think best represents their perspective. No different than an adult. No different than they do when you correct them. No different than they do at home. And they're not always going to be telling the truth. And just because what parents don't understand is they also come into school and say the same thing about y'all. The same thing. My mother doesn't love me. They say the same thing, that if all we did was take the child at his or her word, you'd have the Department of Children and Family Services in everybody's house like stormtroopers. It goes both ways. It's not to say that every single child is lying. That was my point. And I said it's a more nuanced conversation. It's a more nuanced conversation such that when you look at it for its totality, you recognize, okay, did my child do something that would have stopped this instructor from teaching class? Yes. Do I like the fact that she corrected him that way? No. But guess what? When your child is wrong, your child is wrong. And unless they've done something egregious, or if they're consistently hurting your child, coming down guns a-blazing because your child got a morning detention or a lunch detention, or got to stay after school, had to come to school on Saturday, or was suspended, there are only so many corrections that the school has. The school only has so many corrections. What, you don't want us to correct your child now? So this is the problem. This parent here speaks to exactly what happens, where they come in saying some real reckless stuff, as if they're not talking to a person, and then diminishing everything from, let's say in this case, if she's talking about me, my career, because we disagree. It's that kind of reckless speak that it gets me in a situation where I say, you know what, ma'am, you can leave. You can leave the school right now. Because you're not going to come, nobody's going to talk to you like that. Because if one of my colleagues said, what kind of parent are you? Got your child up in the principal's office. What kind of parent doesn't teach your child to come into school with a uniform? Well, who would do that? No one would respond well to that. It's that kind of unchecked, disrespectful speech that creates a contentiousness that makes people, regardless of their color, regardless of their economic circumstances, not want to communicate with a parent who speaks like that.
Dr. Steve Perry, phone lines are going crazy. We have questions coming left and right from online, but we do not have time. You're currently at school, and our show is running out of time. Is there any chance that we'll be able to get you on air again, or maybe even speak to C-Plan, the Collaborative Parent Leader Action Network?
I would imagine yes to both.
Well, I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. Dr. Steve Perry, he is an educator, and I have to say that he gave me a different perspective today as far as parenting is concerned and advocating, because I am one of those parents that I'm a full-blown advocate when it comes to my child, like pom-poms, flags, everything. You know, I know my children are not angels, but, I do know that there are disparities in the school as well that not always favor the child. And I don't know if you know much about Boston, but here we are still dealing with a system where we are busing our children from the city into suburbs to get an education. So our school system has a lot of work to do. I can imagine, such as New York, but
every single day. And therein lies my point. As I mentioned, is both the personal and the political. One of the reasons why I opened schools, plural, not one, multiple schools, is because I've seen Black, brown, Latino parents fighting their behinds off to get their children access to a quality education. And there is a system that is definitely working against our children that has since the school systems have opened. So, as I said, it's a more nuanced conversation where it isn't, I said multiple times, no single side is right or wrong. I work with teachers. I fire teachers. I hire teachers. It's the reason why I'm public enemy number one as it relates to the teachers union, because they know that I'm not about the nonsense. On the same token, to parents who come in on nonsense, I'm not about the nonsense either way. All the grown people need to start acting like grown people, and nobody's right all the time. And in order for us to get our children the access to the education that they need, grown people need to stand down, put the little egos aside, and recognize that we are dealing with children. And issues happen between children that too often make adults act like children. And that's the problem.
Wow. I think that got all the way broken down for me. Hopefully, some people aren't too sensitive, didn't take it the wrong way. Dr. Steve Perry, again, I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And I look forward to speaking to you again in the future.
Much love, sis.
That was, I had questions. You guys had questions. The phone lines had questions. We're going to do everything that we can to bring Dr. Steve Perry back. I apologize, it was only 30 minutes, but at least we got to see from an educator's perspective. He said, listen, y'all kids be bad as hell sometimes. And we have to acknowledge that. And I am one of those parents, guns blazing. What did you do? I know, Nari. What did you do? And the truth of the matter is that, sometimes I am that parent that can act like a child when I should be acting like the parent. So he called me out, got me feeling a little sensitive, but that's the truth. I can acknowledge the truth. I can take the truth. It doesn't always feel good, but he shots fired a couple times, and that I took personally, like, damn, like, I can advocate for my child without being disrespectful to the educator, without being disrespectful to the administrator. So I'm going to do what I need to do as far as my work in being more communicative towards Shay Freak said, I'm a teacher, and I must say that brother is on point. Shay, he definitely, he hit the nail on the head. He said, I opened multiple schools because I understand, but at the same time, I'm not going to take any nonsense from a parent, and I'm not going to take any nonsense from an educator, nor am I going to take any nonsense from a child. I'm an adult. Julia said it's on all of us, but I take responsibility for the role that I play, because sometimes I can be a little bit too abrasive, not only just fighting for my own child, but fighting for other people's kids as well, and it feels as if you have to fight. But Dr. Steve Perry said, sometimes you just got to come in and ask questions, not be questioning. And I have to say again that I am guilty of walking in there and questioning, like, what did you do in my, Bonquita voice. And the truth of the matter is like, what happened? How can we fix this? What is the problem? How do we solve this? Instead of, finger pointing, head shaking, rah, rah, rah. I can't wait to have another conversation with Dr. Perry. C-Plan, let's see if we can get him with us on board. All means all. From Dorchester to Roxbury to West Roxbury, all children in the city of Boston should receive the same level of education. Your zip code should never determine the education that you receive or the services that are provided to you. All means all. C-Plan is for parents. If you know a parent that is struggling, whether there's an IEP involved or whether it's just a child that was mishandled throughout the school system, or maybe not even the child's fault. Maybe it was lack of English as a first language, or regardless of what it is. If you are a parent and you need help advocating and you want to have your voice amplified, C-Plan is where you should be. Come talk to us. You can inbox me. You can look us up online. C-Plan, again, it is the Collaborative Parent Leadership Action Network, aka a bunch of parents that are willing to speak up for their children, to work with politicians, to work with administrators and say, listen, I have a seat at this table. I matter. Parents are first. Please do not make any decision without first consulting me. Thank you. I appreciate it. Let's work together. And we, the teachers have a union, the bus drivers have a union, and I truly believe that the parents need to have a union. And we may not have a quote-unquote union, but C-Plan is our first step to creating a parent union. So I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. Waking Up with TaylaAndre, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7. I want to give a shout out to those little girls that are in Mystic Valley Charter School that was placed in detention and suspended from sports simply for having braids. I want you to do your due diligence because the 11th District Court stated that you can be fired for having locks, and it is not discriminatory towards your employer is not being discriminatory. You have to cut your locks. I think it's completely unfair, and I'm waiting for our Thurgood Marshall to come in 2017 and to fix what's wrong, because that is not right. Sergio said it's our responsibility to show examples of maturity to help raise mature, educated children. I hope you guys have an amazing day today. If you are in need, your friends, I know today was Real Estate Tip Tuesday, but today was the only day that Dr. Steve Perry was available. We were able to get him in the building or on air, and I'm really excited about that. But as far as Real Estate Tip Tuesday is concerned, if you have any questions regarding real estate, if you're looking to buy a new home, if you're looking to sell your home, if you're looking to rent in the city where a 3-bedroom is $3,400 easy, give me a call, 617-459-0041. Again, 617-459-0041. I am one of the amazing agents at Thumbprint Realty, where we do real estate right. Really quickly, do not forget May 20th. Go fund yourself. Are you prepared for your future? Do you have life insurance? Do you have a living will? Do you want to create a trust for your children but don't know how? Don't fall for alternative facts. GoFundMe is not the new life insurance. You have to come and join YPN, Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts, as well as TaylaAndre of Thumbprint Realty, as we help you prepare for your golden years, estate planning, wills and trust, guardianship, avoiding probate issues, life insurance, paying for funeral expenses, final wishes and burial options, as well as health care proxies. May 20th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., 88 Warren Street in Roxbury, directly across the street from the library. Parking is available, and we will be feeding you. Thank you to Prestige Cuisine. We will have some chicken, we'll have some rice, we'll have some veggies. Your belly will be full. Come out May 20th on Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And don't forget on June 25th, Boston Business Builder featuring Professor Devin Robinson. He's opened 20% of the Black-owned beauty supply stores in the United States. And he's coming to Boston to talk to us about Boston Business Builder. How can we build your business? If you have an idea, if you have a business that hasn't taken off the ground yet, how can we help you build that business? The city will be there. We're working on having some funders so that way your business can get some funds, some money. Today, Professor Devin and the Beauty Supply Institute has opened over 80 Black-owned beauty supply stores that have generated over $13 million in revenue for urban communities. He continues to serve as the CEO and Program Director of Beauty Supply Institute as well as the Urban Business Institute. He will be here June 25th to answer any and all of your questions on how to become a successful Black business owner. will be at the Bruce Boiling building, and I am so excited for this event. You guys remember the conversation we had with Professor Devin when he was talking about opening a beauty supply store here in Boston? Well, we're going to have that conversation as well, and I can't wait. I can't wait to be able to go down Blue Hill Ave or Geneva Ave and go into a store that looks like us, that came from products that were made by us. Just for me. So excited, so excited. Shout out to my baby Faith Naturals. I brought all of her products to Africa, and they were like, can you leave them here, please? So I did. Faith Naturals, we're going to try and get her to Africa immediately. Ethiopia loves her. I love her. She's at 88. Oh, wow, not 88. 66 South Street. 66A South Street. I'm going to stop by there today. Don't tell her. Shh. I'm going to go surprise her because I ain't seen her in so long. I just want to wrap my arms around her, give her a hug, and go pick up some pom-pom wash. Yeah, I said it. I said it because I can. I love you. I appreciate you, and I hope you guys have an amazing day.
You know what it is? DJ Sus won the feature.
Mahogany, he hurt my feelings, boo. I swear he hurt my feelings, because he was talking about me. Professor Steve Perry was talking about a TaylaAndre when he said, y'all need to stop coming in here, guns blazing, ready to attack a teacher, because that is me all day long. And then that's not ready to attack a teacher. It's understanding the system that our children are in. It's understanding how administrators and educators don't completely understand our children. It's understanding, like, the environment that he's in. If I don't fight for my baby, who's going to fight for him? When he's told to sit down and shut up and not have a voice, who's going to be the one to allow him to speak up? And I understand how I stifle his growth and stifle, his ability to be a mature adult when I allow him to, Mommy, I don't want to. Can you call the teacher? And I'll be like, yes, baby. Whatever you need, Papa. Okay, boo. And the truth of the matter is Dr. Steve Perry's right. I cannot sit here advocating for a child because he don't like an adult. So, I'd like to speak to him a little bit more. Because a part of me feels as if he's speaking from an educator's point of view. But he's also a parent, so he gets the other side of it. He's also an advocate, so he completely understands the dynamics of, the system itself. I wish we had more time with him. I really wish we had more time with him. Julia Mahia, let's work on getting him here and try and answering these questions because I see both sides of it. I see the advocacy and the work that needs to be done within the school system, but I also see the work that needs to be done within parents. I also see my fault and my flaws when it comes to blindly advocating for my child. And, what did the teacher do? Like, I'm guilty. I'm so guilty of that. I have work to do, baby. I have work to do. And I don't think you guys understand how piercing it is to be told the truth that resonates with you and actually, accepting it. Actually accepting that truth. It's, when you hold that mirror up and you actually look at your BS, and somebody calls you out on your bullshit, and you're mature enough to accept it. Makes me think of how many times did I walk in that school immaturely, ready to fight for a child that was most likely in the wrong. Message. I hope you guys have an amazing day today.